Welcome to the ICE podcast, supported by the US Soybean Export Council, an initiative to enable the cold chain industry of India to be future ready.
Hello, and a warm welcome to this episode of the ICE podcast on cold chain technology. I'm sure you all must have listened to the abbreviation GMP. It means Good Manufacturing Practices. It's widely used in the manufacturing industry, especially in food and pharmaceutical industries. Similarly, there are other abbreviations and frameworks like good distribution practices, good storage practices, good laboratory practices. And one such good practice framework is the good loading practices. Loading where, you may ask? Good loading practices is used in loading of refrigerated trucks. Good loading practices, if followed, can make a great difference between safe and or risky transport of perishables like food and pharma. And to talk about this important topic, we have with us today an eminent personality, Mr. Pankaj Mehta. Pankaj is currently the Managing Director of Carrier Transicold for India and South Asia. He has over 27 years of experience in the cold chain industry. He holds a master's degree in management and has served on various national committees like the CII Cold Chain Task Force, the CII Council on Agriculture and Food Processing, CII Committee on Logistics and Supply Chain. He is also a member on the Governing Council of the Food and Agriculture Center of Excellence. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Pankaj Mehta, to deliver your talk.
Hello everyone. I hope everybody is keeping safe and healthy. I represent Carrier Transicold and I'm proud to say we are completing 50 years of innovative transport refrigeration systems. That Carrier Transicold has over 1 million systems working around the globe, helping to preserve, protect, and improve the global supply chain of perishable food and pharmaceutical systems across rail, seagoing containers, and road systems. Let me talk a little bit about the distribution or the transport refrigeration. Transport refrigeration largely could be long haul, high volume product distribution, or it could be last mile, smaller trucks or vans carrying products to the retail stores. Let's see what are some of the purposes why we design transport refrigeration. So the purpose of transport refrigeration is to maintain the temperature of the product. It is not to pull down. What I mean is that the set point at which you set the product, the unit will only maintain it at that set point. And good air distribution is one of the most important factors to maintain proper temperature across the container. Moving ahead, we will see some of the other challenges that we face while we consider a good and efficient transport refrigeration. The box insulation, the K factor of the insulation is very important because it helps maintain the cooling inside the box. So that is something that we need to take care. The design of the box, the K factor, the temperature set point at which we are loading the product, and also other aspects like proper distribution, proper processes, when to open the container, when to close. I think one of the simplest ones to take care is following proper loading practices when we are handling transport refrigeration. So let's understand a little bit more about good loading practices for an efficient transport refrigeration system. So basically, it's a 4-step process. Step 1 is to pre-cool the container. Make sure that the container is not lying in the sun. It is lying in a shade to avoid any heat ingress coming from the ambient sunlight. Keep the unit running and bring down the container temperature close to the set point. Step 2 is make sure that the product is also at the set point and is lying ready to be loaded at an insulated parking area, loading bay. Step 3 is the actual loading process. Before loading, we need to make sure that we shut down the unit before we open the doors. What happens is, if we open the doors and the unit is running, the cold air, which is heavier, tends to rush out and is replaced by ambient air, which is hotter and has a lot of moisture. Now, this leads to many complications. The moisture goes onto the coils, it leads to frosting, the system goes into a defrost cycle, and there is a lot of chaos. So, to avoid all that, make sure you shut down the unit, then you open the doors and you load the product. The loading time has to be minimal. And the fourth step is you again close the doors, restart the unit, and you're ready to go. Going ahead, let's understand a little bit more about how we are expected to load the product. The first thing is, don't mix products at different temperatures. If you're having frozen and chilled products, make sure they are divided in separate compartments. These days, there's a lot of tendency to use fan air distribution from one compartment to another. For hygiene reasons, that is not recommended. So there are specific multi-temperature systems in case you want to carry two products, one frozen, one chilled, in the same box. We recommend that you use a proper multi-temperature system for that. When we load the cartons or the pallets in the box, what is the general tendency is that we load too tight. We don't leave space on the top. You block the evaporator, which can cause short cycling. There is not enough space for the cold air to move about. Same with the gaps on the side and at the rear. We need to ensure that there is proper space available between the pallet and the container wall to allow the air to move about freely. We must understand that air distribution is essential to maintain the proper temperature and to ensure that there are no hot spots created anywhere across the length of the container. You can imagine that these are long 32 feet, 40 feet containers, and if we don't permit air to go right up to the length of the container, it's highly possible that you have hot spots developing somewhere, and the product at the hot spot will definitely not be in the best condition. So to ensure a uniform distribution of air, we need to make sure that the product loading is proper, leave space from the top, leave space from the sides and from the rear door. It is a chain. Cold chain is called a chain because the strength of the chain is in the weakest link, and most of the time it is the transport refrigeration bit which is improperly handled, and that becomes the weakest link, and that's where the chain breaks and the product gets spoiled. That's it from my side. Thank you.